My name's Holt, and I'm one of the members in the technical enablement team here at Progress. With the recent acquisition, I came over from the Loadmaster side, so there's some technology in here that I'm going to thread in the security play today that should just open up a few opportunities to think about, where does this technology apply, and how does the consumer and the user benefit from this. So I wanted to give you a quick whistle stop onto our VMS, or our vision, our mission, and our strategy, and just to sort of place ourselves into the hands of the team that are there, and also make people aware about what Progress is all about. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, Progress is all about propelling organizations forward in a technology-driven world. And what is interesting about this statement is, we've had the same vision for 40 years, and we've helped people and businesses of all sizes to succeed based on the technology of the day, whilst constantly innovating in order to, to stay ahead of that technology curve. And now, with technology at the center of everything that we do, Progress has never been more strategic and valuable. So we do this by delivering our mission and being the trusted provider of the best products to develop and deploy and manage high impact applications. And Progress has long provided things like Open Edge and Data Direct, which are used by more than sort of 1,500 vendors worldwide in the field. But more recent additions to our portfolio, including the likes of Kemp and Flowmon, this sort of organic development through acquisition is really sort of positioned as well. So with those best products, we can measure the best based on that business value and the help that we provide to speed the introduction of critical application features. And we focus on infrastructure software, so where everything that you need to develop, deploy, and manage these high impact applications. So how do we achieve that vision and our mission? Our strategy is pretty straightforward. We've invested in time to innovate and acquire the technologies and integrate and drive our customer success. And we've done a phenomenal amount of innovation over the years, which is, when we've acquired these companies, 3 in the last 3 years, the integration into the business that's made sure that those products work well and they're complementary to each other across the range. So, and none more so than what we've just acquired in the last 2 or 3 months towards the back end of last year. So Progress is built around you. That's what we stand for. And from a success point of view, it's what our products deliver, and when our achievements grow, so does our sense of pride. Okay, so building on the example of let's say something like hospitality or a restaurant or some form of hotel, there are things that you interact with. So be it food, services, entertainment, or things like the front of house. That's what we see as the consumer side. And then from a what makes it happen, and all this will become clear in those 3 concentric circles as we just delve a little bit deeper into what Progress does. But by making things happen, there are things that the staff, the technology, things like the back of the house and the logistics that make these things happen. And then as we start to try and automate things and enable things that are there to change and evolve, there's a supply chain, for example, that needs to evolve from large stock orders to things like just-in-time type delivery models, for example. So thinking about those 3 things that I've just spoken about there on the hospitality side, within Progress, there are these 3 fields or 3 levels or areas of expertise: the DX, the AX, and the agile infrastructure. So the DX is the digital experiences that enable things like multi-channel interactions, whether that be things like web applications, mobile and chat functions, or decoupled presentations and headless applications. So we look at things like digital decisions through a business rules engine as well. So being able to interact with all of these platforms and then make decisions as a result. And then looking at the integration of those applications from data and disparate sources. We then look at the AX side of things, which is where the Flowmon and Loadmaster side brands fit into, and it's all about the application experience, which is what we're going to talk to today in a little more detail. And it provides visibility into things like network monitoring, infrastructure performance, and ensuring that the intelligent applications and the service delivery is an always-on experience for the users. And then from an agile point of view, the agile infrastructure, that environment is there to enable compliancy, high velocity business changes, things like CI/CD pipelines, all of the clever and almost low to no touch once things are built, and offer that responsiveness to the experience through the expansion channels. So all of this in the product portfolio is what we're all about. So the technologies that fit into these, you may not have seen or heard of any of the platforms that we may touch on today. But then into the application experience side of things, it's the What's Up goal piece, it's Flowmon, it's Loadmaster. And I'll touch very briefly on things like Chef through a use case of our technology further down the line. And then sort of to map this all together from the 3 pillars of the organization, this digital experience is where the customer experience lives. It's part of that application experience that provides the assurance for the infrastructure and the environment that delivers the digital experiences. And then the agile infrastructure pulls together that ecosystem and practices that enable rapid change. So all of these things that are in progress all have a complementary fit, and it results in an optimized and streamlined IT operation in the field. Okay, so that's enough about progress and what we are and what we do now before we jump into some of the technology. I just want to take a quick pause for your thoughts and imagine a scenario where we all like to undertake a bit of a break or a vacation. That's probably one of my favorite shots of a place in Cyprus. It's a place close to my heart, but imagine those warm, salty sea breezes hitting your face with that sweet coconut aroma of the sun protection spray and a meat-infused scented stroll down the strip. Lots of senses and tastes and things there that we can certainly visualize. But what is important about this? I think, how do we get there? How do we make things work in order to go and take that rest and relaxation? And you might think, what has this got to do with progress? But I'll show you where this applies in some of the themes that I'm going to talk to you about through the products portfolio today. So from an application experience approach, we provide the assurance mechanisms required for delivering great digital experiences by enabling the IT teams to take control over those applications, and through network visibility and through infrastructure monitoring, as well as the application performance and ultimately the security, which is what we're here to talk about today. This overarches the application experience that we would expect the user to have in conjunction with the products and the portfolio that is abound inside the Progress brands. So let's take I just want to look at a brief journey and see how the interaction of the Progress portfolio gets you to that place that I spoke about a little earlier in the presentation. So things like the booking system, when you come to book that travel, those hotels, those flights, there's lots of applications that sit behind the scenes here as to how Progress can, and we enable those processes to happen. So things like Sitefinity and Corticon, which are a couple of products that we don't have time to talk about today. These are the ones where those platforms deliver these websites for the booking systems, for the online online security and verification for things like APIs and all of the passport details when it comes to check-in. And some of those systems that you probably never see or never associate with Progress, that's all in our bag today from a security and an applications perspective. Then we've got things like secure ticketing and the check-in process. I know for a fact that and there's a lot of our customers that use our load balancing technology in order to publish applications. And in some cases, these are the airlines that are providing the multi-channel ticketing, the ability to gain access to these applications days, weeks, months in advance in order to get access to those tickets. And ultimately, as we get closer to that event from a check-in perspective, the check-in process for things like borders and ports is also fronted by our Loadmaster technology in the UK, for example. So there's lots of things that are in the portfolio today that behind the scenes have a big presence in this travel journey that we're embarking on. Couple that with something like security, as I get to get patted down by the security guy in the room and walk through the little gates and hope that the buzzer doesn't fly off the handle. Ultimately, that also has some form of database behind it. It knows that the passengers that are coming through have gone through some form of check-in process. It's valid, and they're able to be in the room. But then there's another scrutiny that once we're perceived as those users and those actors in the room, we've got to differentiate between what is a bad actor and what is ultimately a good actor. And then on board, things like your baggage, and the manifest that gets your baggage onto that plane, and the manifest that puts you on that plane, that's all fronted by and utilized with our open edge technology as well. So just sort of trying to bring all of this together in the context of where progress fits in. I think it's a really compelling story. And then, once we've touched down and we've landed in the airport, and we've gone through that rigorous process and that monotonous process of finding the bags and whatever else, the taxis and the hotel apps and everything else, the likelihood is that all this fits into what we do. So let's hold that thought as we go through. Okay, so looking at leveraging the analogy of the airport experience, I think what is important is to just think about that experience and how do we apply this in the modern computer network and that ecosystem. So I'm going to take you through some of the products that fit into the analogy of the airport. One of them is a little bit on MOVEit and how it applies to shifting data around. The other one is Flowmon, which is deep forensics. I also have a colleague on the session today, which is Jiri Krejci. He's going to do a walkthrough of the Flowmon side of things a little later on. So onto an overview of Progress MOVEit. So we're going to cover another session here around MOVEit, which is a product in the portfolio from Progress. Thinking back to that analogy of the airport and the previous session, I want to show you how this solution makes things like data transfer and the collaboration of that data such an easy task with minimally invasive techniques, but also to the point where, from a customer experience perspective, we're able to shift that data around as a result of this type of joined up product. What is MOVEit? So MOVEit is a secure and compliant managed transfer product. It was produced originally by Ipswich, so some of you may have come across that brand previously. And MOVEit, it's an encryption tool that effectively uses secure file transfer protocols, and it transfers data with an automation tool along with analytics and things like failover options. So MOVEit is it's the leading managed file transfer software that's used by thousands of organizations, and I'll cover a couple of use cases a little later on just to show you who's using it and why. And ultimately, it can be deployed as a service or in the cloud or even as an on-premises solution. And MOVEit enables organizations to meet compliance standards. It easily enables them to ensure the reliability of the core business processes and to secure the transfer of sensitive data between those partners, customers, users, and systems. And organizations that use Progress MOVEit for secure and compliant transfers of sensitive data and typically have mission critical data that they have to collaborate, but they can't standardize on a single system, typically because of the disparate sprawl that it ensues. So we can secure and control it. We can also collaborate with those third parties in different locations across different partners. And we can also use it to automate things like workflows, assure that compliance, and stay simple to use, simple to manage, but with the secure user access. So, just to sort of look at a few of the problems that we solve with MOVEit, I think what is important for you guys as a panel of experts in this field is to understand the problems that we solve, so that when you're talking to partners that have this problem, or you do that discovery to try and uncover that, then we enable those type of businesses to transfer this detail, this information with an industrial standard practice, and remove that how do I get to this point where I can use a collaborative tool without a big total cost of ownership and all of those disparate systems in between. And the automation side of things as well. I mean, and from a bird's eye view with MOVEit, it's safe to say that we can encompass multiple protocols, lots of applications in order to help that journey along the secure file transfer. Okay, so I want to take a short while just to run through a short product demonstration of MOVEit at a high level, just to keep on point with ensuring we understand what it is and what it does.
Your business depends on transferring mission-critical sensitive data securely and reliably. MOVEit can help. MOVEit is a proven enterprise-class secure file transfer solution that gets your files where they need to go. MOVEit keeps your files secure, both in transit and at rest, with a tamper-evident audit log, so you can prove compliance with HIPAA, GDPR, and other regulations, all while maintaining complete visibility and control over file transfer activities between partners, customers, users, and systems. Available as a managed service, in the cloud, or an on-premise solution, MOVEit is easy to deploy and lets you lower operational costs by consolidating all your file transfer activities to one scalable system. MOVEit includes powerful and easy-to-use features like secure folder sharing, so you can give internal and external users easy drag-and-drop collaboration capability. Live view dashboards make it easy to see the status and performance of your transfers in real time and at a glance. Automation and integration capabilities including REST, .NET, and Java APIs make scriptless custom workflows a snap. Any user can easily access MOVEit via web, Mac and Windows desktop clients, or our free mobile app, all with award-winning 24/7 phone support to keep your files moving without interruption. So, get the data security, user access controls, and data transfer audit trails you need. Download a free trial of MOVEit today.
Okay, so and just to round up a few things around what it's there to do. I mean, from a high level view, there's lots of things that MOVEit will enable, but I think from a security point of view, we've got to protect that detail. We've got to make sure that the content that's going through that system is, it's encrypted at rest and in transit, so that there's no potential breach points. We can also guarantee the delivery and the notifications as well. So there's a full audit trail of who's had access to it, and you can maintain the compliancy through that as a result. We can also use it to collaborate. So for systems that are disparate and they don't share the same ecosystem, we can send files using the built-in browser as well as things like the email clients, in order for one, the secure tracking of the content, and two, again, the audit trail. And from an automation perspective, the scripting and the ability to pull in, the ability to sort of control which fields, which forms are sent out with that, we can sort of really drill into that as well, should you need to. And then from a scalability and a compliance point of view, it's a high-performing solution that scales with a high availability set as well. So there's a business continuity and a guarantee that there's no low to no failover on that, and no downtime or impacts to the user space. And then from a compliancy point of view, I think everybody's suffered at the hands of all of these compliancy things that are abound these days. I mean, you forever seen breaches in the press around data hitting the wrong planes here, and ultimately, and things like HIPAA and PCI DSS are things that we have to maintain, and as security experts in our field, we have to recommend solutions that we know are going to adhere to that. So we can just round all of the security off with the ability to comply with those regulatory bonds and bodies that are out there. And I think the other thing as well, from a flexibility point of view, it's important that there is an opportunity across the board that we can look at this on all of the different infrastructure levels. Okay, so a typical use case, I mean, just thinking about the journey that I brought you on today around the travel and the transfers. I think what is important here is how do we apply something like MOVEit in the common sense of where does this apply, who does it apply to, and to what level? If we were to think of the global passports and this new entity that has become the participant of most people's travel, probably some of you that are in the room today, being able to send that personal confidential information securely through to a third-party application to authorize you to get on that plane, it's quite an important thing. What happens if it gets into the wrong hands? What's the restriction? What's the implications? And I think using the COVID-19 certificate here, we could securely upload this to the platform. All of the pre-flight checks can be done, the validation of the user that said, hey, I'm fit for travel, I'm good to go. This is where something like MOVEit comes into its own, because there's lots of different systems and security entities that would need access to this type of data. What we can also do is, once that verification of upload has been made, things like checking in to see if it is that they've got a valid certificate, or if they've the ability to travel is granted. I still then need to use that passport to get to the next base. So I need to get into the country of my destination. I also need to use it for things like onward travel and access to services in resorts. So it's a massively important piece of data, and it could fall and foul to the wrong hands. It's a travesty. So MOVEit actually enables that type of system to become fully functional, fully fledged. And just to sort of touch on some of the architecture as well, the automation side of things is it's probably the thing that's most prevalent and most important to us. The MOVEit transfer that sits in the DMZ zone there, think of that as almost like a file locker, some form of DMZ encryption tool that, from a collaborative point of view, in and out of the business, that is there at the perimeter. But where progress automation comes into play on the MOVEit side is, I can take multiple documents, multiple nuggets of information. I can then create scripts that carve out that information and creates a joined up effort of a document, some other workflows that means that from a user perspective that may be traveling, I'm fit to fly based on my COVID certification. I've got my passenger locator form for the destination, and I've then got things like my baggage tags and all of these other important fields that identify and move with me as I go. And all of this can be shared across that infrastructure using the MOVEit tooling. Okay, so on to a little bit of a case study here, which I think again is an important part of this. I mean, who's using this technology and why? So Swissport, who are a synonymous name in the world of travel, around about 62,000 staff there or thereabouts across 48 countries. And it was entitling them to boast pretty much the world's largest ground and cargo operations corp. And in their plight to find a solution, having chosen MOVEit, we've protected files across, I think, something in the region of about 600 applications. And it's needed primarily for an SFTP, so a secure file transfer protocol for flight information, and then the luggage and the gate status manifests. And we've enabled the transparency in the disparate systems by using this third-party agency, but also the ability to collaborate across the globe with other handling agencies in order to share those details securely without having to have a global system in place. So it's extremely stable, it's robust, and it's easy to manage. And you can see from Simon Widman there, he's basically stated that since they've started to use MOVEit, they're now transferring something like 133,000 transfers on a weekly average, which I think is pretty impressive. So some of the key takeaways from MOVEit, and it is secured by design. It's something that is easy to manage, and it's easy to integrate. And from a seamless integration, that's what we're after in this day and age. We don't want intrusive, monolithic applications that, from a footprint perspective and a security perspective, it becomes difficult to put into the hands of these organizations that you guys will be working with. So by providing that strong end-to-end cryptography and accommodating complex or even simple security policies, we can provide a compelling solution from progress with MOVEit. And then the top business benefits there, I think one is to heighten the security with everything that's going on in the world. And nobody wants to be at risk or responsible for any of those things that go awry. But even with things like the ability to provide automatic data deletion, making sure that from an audit trail perspective, things have disappeared, things have moved from view as a result of things like good policy retention and good security posture. This is all part of the management profile with MOVEit. We can also provide things like centralized management capabilities as well, along with the reporting and the compatibility to provide tamper-proof data transfers, but also with the assurance of those audit trails.
The big picture's pretty clear, but you know, moving files and logging. How deep do you go in the security side of this, other than the actual transfer? You mentioned briefly encryption at rest, but if you're transferring between two different companies, you got two different key stores, and you know, how far down that security encryption chain do you go, and what else in the way of securing the data itself is involved here?
Well, there's an application that we, typically I would log into an application, for example, on the cloud side. I would upload the file that I want to transfer. There's then it almost feels like an email client in the back end that's transmitting that data, but the data in flight is encrypted, and anybody that tries to access that would then be blocked unless they've got the right credentials that are shared. So it is collaborative, and it does go right down to the standards that you would expect from this type of application. So it's without sort of having full end-to-end point-to-point solutions. Let's say, for example, like Exchange. I mean, if you've got an email service on a corporate network, you can encrypt everything in and out internally there. But once it leaves the boundary of that business, there's got to be security policies applied. And this is where MOVEit comes into its own because of that cryptography.
Yeah, so I'm still missing where the encryption at rest applies, because you're not controlling.
It's at the file level. Yeah, it's at the file level. So once that file has gone through the MOVEit process of being encrypted, and there's got to be an interaction from the user perspective. So say I sent you a file today, I could send you that file and pass it through the MOVEit application. And it's gone through that encryption process, and you would receive that an embedded link in an email, for example, that I've relayed to you. You then click on that, and you've got to have some credential that allows you access to the file in order to decrypt it.
Okay, so you're storing it in between.
In between, yeah. So it's as part of the MOVEit solution. So you still come through the gates of MOVEit from the embedded link on the email itself. So it's not like there's something in the background that we've pre-shared, pre-enabled. You don't have to have something on your side in order to be able to use this solution. It's part and parcel of the MOVEit process.
So how does the whole process of making sure my sensitive data on your server is there for the minimum amount of time, how do you manage all that?
Well, there's a central console that you can set retention policies, and set encryption levels, all that sort of stuff. You can also set critical levels as well. So if it's business critical and it has to have the highest level of encryption with the lowest retention policies, that's all done through a central management tool.
Do you support other keys just managed by you, or is this bring your own key or hold your own key?
I think it's a combination of the two. You can generate and hold. So you can generate keys within the system and use third parties.
Yeah. So Carl, you were just talking about the transfers, keeping it secure. That's really more for your cloud service. I know personally when we have the on-premises version, and we're basically using it to pull data from locations to transfer up. At that point, then it's the customer kind of. If they put an insecure location, that's not on you guys.
No, and if it's not classified at the right level as well, I think that's another important stage for the business decisions to make. So from a compliancy point of view, the business does have to afford the ability to work out what is at the highest critical level downwards in order to create those policies and profiles.
You're not implying that that business people tend to mess up all the time, are you?
Not at all. Not at all. So that's MOVEit in a nutshell. I mean, as I said to you, it's one of the products that we wanted to boil up to the top in this session, given the fact that we have a useful tool in the security field of encryption, and just to try and bring the several different blends of technology that we have. I think what is important is that we see progress as more than just that. Handful of brands that we may have been known for. I think there's sort of 10, 12 products across the portfolio now. MOVEit is just one of those things that fits in there alongside the likes of Flowmon and Kemp.